when she says, a man must be able to protect me. What she means is, a man must be able to spare me from all forms of discomfort. What else could he protect her from? Robbers? An atom bomb? Hi, welcome back to Far From Eden. We have been going through this book, and a lot of people have said, why won't you say the name of it? Why won't you say the author's name? Which I'm showing on the screen right now, just in case you're listening. Because when I did, my video was demonetized, and that also means it's going to be harder. YouTube isn't going to want to push it out in the algorithm as much. You know, people have said, but it's on YouTube all over the place. Yeah, well, it's not on Amazon, is it? They don't want this information out. They don't want to push it out. They don't make the censorship obvious so that people can say things like, but I see it here and I see it there. Yeah, but do you know how few men have actually heard of this book or the things that Ms. Villar says in it? It's astounding. And one of the things, I want to let you guys in on this because you guys are a big part of this channel. I read your emails, I read your comments, and I just keep hearing your stories, you know, and it just solidifies what I know, right? And why I started this sort of crusade to begin with. Didn't see a lot of, or any Christian women who knew what was going on in society and how it was stacked against men. You know, and when I say Christian, I don't mean the Daily Wire type. I don't mean the ones that tell men, do the right thing and marry a woman. No. If you love men, why would you send them off, you know, like a lamb to the slaughter? Why would you do that? And it's obvious what's going on. All you have to do is open your eyes and actually listen to men. Actually listen to them. Average men, the majority of them. What's going on with them? And you guys know, because that's who you are. But anyway, so I gained so much knowledge from all of your feedback and all of your stories. And yeah, so I like to involve you guys in what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is when I do my hashtags, and you might have noticed this, when I hashtag things, I'll hashtag red pill, I'll hashtag, you know, men going off by themselves, their own way, one might say. I hashtag that, and YouTube's been letting that through okay. I had to experiment with it. But I'm also hashtagging dating advice for men. And I think that might be why the channel has seen so much growth, because I am desperately trying to reach the men that think that it's them, that they're the only ones that this is happening to, or that it's because they weren't a good enough husband, right? All of those things that in a lot of cases, their church might be sort of telling them that. You know, they kind of get the whole, well, she had a good reason. She wouldn't have filed for divorce if she didn't have a good reason. And a lot of times, I mean, the majority of the time, it's irreconcilable differences, which is she's bored, she's unfulfilled, she's not happy, whatever. And I want them to know, and welcome, if that's you, if you're like, how did I get to this channel? I want them to know what the situation is out there, so they have a more accurate perspective, and therefore they can make better decisions about how they proceed. And my advice is it's dangerous to date out there at all. So with that being said, we are on a chapter called a dictionary, and that is where Ms. Villar is translating some common things women might say to, say, their husbands or what have you. Back then, it was less of like long-term relationships. There weren't situationships, you know what I mean? This was 1971. So this is more what a wife might say to her husband. and then what she really means. So it'll be interesting in 1971 what those things were. So let's get started. Constant self-abasement in the presence of men has led women to develop a secret language which other women understand, but which is incomprehensible to men since they take it literally. Yeah, we think very differently. So true. It would therefore be a great advantage to men to hold the key to this code and to create a sort of dictionary for themselves. Then, whenever they heard a standard phrase, they could decipher its real meaning. Here are a few examples with a translation into male language. I am so excited about this. I already read the first one at the opening, but we'll do it again. A man must be able to protect me. I mean, it's funny because some of these things I can imagine, say, on the Whatever podcast. Like, because that's where they get asked a lot of these sort of questions. Do you think that a man should have to protect you, etc.? So it's like 1971, 2025. God, 2025. We're in Star Trek years now. It doesn't even feel real. Anyway, a man must be able to spare me from all forms of discomfort. What else could he protect her from? Robbers and an atom bomb? Yeah. In this day and age, yeah, robbers. Yeah. All kinds of things. So it's funny. Yeah, they do expect their lives to be comfortable. They don't seem to understand that that's not how life works. But when you raise your little girl as a princess, then she doesn't understand that life is unfair and difficult. And who is she going to blame? Well, she blames the husband. I need a man to make me feel secure. I must be able, that's just one, sorry. I need a man to make me feel secure. And by that, she means, above all, he must keep his money worries to himself. In this day and age, I mean, the woman is like got the purse strings, right? That's so funny. Back in the day, she didn't want to hear about the money worries. Wow. I don't think that even applies nowadays. They do still they still expect him to make her feel secure. But what she means by that is almost like I don't even think she could tell you, honestly. It's just that if she doesn't, then it's his fault. And honestly, this is why they break up with the betas. This is why they break up with the betas. This is why they'll marry a simp, right? Because he treats her like a princess, but then they don't respect him. And they end up feeling insecure because of it. So I think she's not going to probably say, I want a man that leads. Because the second he does, she's going to disagree with him. Anyway, that's a huge problem. Here's the next one. I must be able to look up to a man. Oh, that is different nowadays. Oh no, they want him to look up to her nowadays. But let's see what she meant by that in 1971. Oh my goodness. What is that thing on my camera? I have no idea. Anyways, well, I'm not good at technology. So what she means by that is to be a possible candidate as a husband, he must be more intelligent, responsible, courageous, industrious, and stronger than I am. Otherwise, what purpose would he serve? Isn't that so interesting? Because they do shoot for the 7, 8s, and 9s, right? Like the 4s and 5s. Like they shoot for 7, 8s, and 9s because they can have hanky-panky with those ones. And then they're kind of alpha widowed, and I learned so much from home math. And they can like only settle for those men up there. And in that way, they do want him to have, at least her degree or higher, more money than she makes. That wouldn't have been applicable in 1971 because, of course, he would have made more money than her. Because generally, women really didn't work. The way we understand it now, they didn't. So this does translate, although I don't think the modern woman would ever say, I want to be able to look up to him. Because they're so sensitive nowadays that they need to be seen as equals. They want to be respected. They want their careers to matter and all that. And men generally don't care about that stuff. But by and large, especially Gen X and millennial women have no idea that men don't care about careers and the woman making money. They want wives. All right, the next one. This is so fascinating to, we're doing literary archaeology because we're digging up the culture from 1971 and seeing what does it mean and how does it apply now? Because the nature of people has not changed. That's another thing I won't say on YouTube is, the nature of a certain gender. Of course, I would give up my career if my husband asked me. No, they would never say that nowadays. They would never say that nowadays. Oh my gosh. He'd be like, I want to do my thing. Why would he deprive me of my career and my glory? Okay. So this is what it meant back then. Once he is earning enough money, I am never going to work again. Now that's true. That's true. Okay, what would she say nowadays when she means once he is earning enough money, I am never going to work again? She says, oh yeah, once I have a child, I want to stay home with the child. I'd like to have that option. That's what she would say. And she means once he is earning enough money, I'm never going to work again. That's what that means. And in Ms. Vilar's view, that's a bad thing. She's very secular. She doesn't see roles the same way many of us do. It seems that she thinks that women should be just like men, right? And in that case, I'm like, who's raising the children, Ms. Vilar? But a lot of you have informed me that she hails from a certain Germanic tribe, and that's why she has these very secular, kind of almost feminist views. But I can tell, and I don't want to speak for the men's rights movement, but from what I know and the time I've spent with men's rights activists, she sounds very similar to them. They seem that they want egalitarianism, right? And they want sameness. They definitely are secular. So I see a lot of parallels there. All right. By the way, smash that like button, please. My little doggy reminds me she is trying to behave. I'm trying to train her to jump up there because you guys have requested more screen time. So I may have a pepperoni treat in my pocket ready to reward her if and when she jumps up there. I put treats up there earlier, but she ate them when she got down. So we're working on the association. Anyways. All right, here's the next one. The only thing I want in life is to make him happy. She would never say that nowadays. Oh my God. Here's what she meant back then. I will do everything in my power to stop him from knowing how much I exploit him. Let's see. What would she say nowadays when she says, I will do everything in my power to stop him from knowing how much I exploit him? She would just love bomb him. That's what love bombing is. When she's, especially before the vows. That's why it changes. That's why it changes after the vows. A lot of you have said, yeah, after my honeymoon, it's totally different. Something changed. Yeah, she got what she needed. She's secure now. And all that love bombing, that's to sort of get you down the aisle and hide that yeah, I really want this for my security. This is my lifetime security plan. And I don't want you to know that I feel that way or think that way. That's depressing. But a lot of people may be new here, and this may all be new information. And I implore you to go back at the rest of the series. I need to get all these on a playlist. I keep meaning to do that. And that way you can go back and watch the whole series, because if you're new to this red pill space, trust me, red pill does not mean Andrew Tate and like pickup artists and that kind of stuff. It means you're awake to what's going on in the reality of it. So if you're new, welcome, and I'm sorry. All right, next one. I will never bother him with trivial problems. Oh, nowadays they're like, here's all the problems and they're trivial and I'm going to act like the world is ending. Okay, here's what she meant by that back then. I'll do anything rather than keep him away from his work. I'll do anything rather than keep him away from his work. Oh, nowadays they'll divorce you over that. She's in her big McMansion that she wanted with her expensive car that she doesn't need, right? Sends the kids to private school so she doesn't homeschool them, and has lunch with the ladies every day and sells things on Etsy, right? I'm just painting a scenario. And then, she's bored and alone. He's not there to entertain her. And say he's like a high-powered attorney to provide her this lifestyle. You're always at work. One thing I heard growing up, even when you're home, you're not really home because you're thinking about work or you're answering phone calls or you're on the computer. Yeah. What do you think pays for all this, right? But you can't win. You can't win. So nowadays, they definitely will. You're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. If you don't make enough for the lifestyle, then you're no good. If you do, but that equals work, which a lot of women don't seem to understand that. And honestly, a lot of younger guys don't seem to understand that when you have your own company, you work all the time, right? Or if you're a partner in a law firm or any of those jobs where you make a lot, you work a lot. I think they think you climb the ladder and then you sit there and rest on your laurels. That is a complete, obviously they didn't grow up learning this from their own father, that if you have a lot of things, you're not going to have a lot of time with him. It's a trade-off, honestly. And it's not worth it. It isn't worth it. But if that's what he does, if you meet him and he's already in Harvard Law School and he's like, no, I'm passionate about this, don't get married to a man and then complain that he's at work all the time. That's who you married. Like, don't do that for any reason, right? He is who he is and you married him. You don't get to, try to change him. But we know they will, hence the title of the book. They do. It's all well and good until it's not. Oh, here we go. Next one. I am there for him alone. And that means no other man has to work for me. Enter social media. And she's getting attention and likes from other men. They like it. They like the photo. They whatever. In future, I shall devote my life to my family. God, they don't say that anymore, but they said it back then, but they didn't mean it. What did they mean? I'm not going to lift another finger for the rest of my life. It's his turn now. Yeah, because they wanted soft life. Because honestly, you talk about, oh, we should go back to the 1950s. It was such a better time. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. That's a television show. That's a movie, right? Women had soft life. They didn't have some did, but the romanticized 1950s, right? They didn't have gardens. They didn't have responsibilities. They didn't have duties. They just sat in the house all day, right? Some of them had housekeepers. It's like we weren't cooking from scratch anymore. So it was soft life because of all of the inventions and the comforts that men had invented. So they had soft life. They weren't like, well, I have all this extra time. I can do more things. Let me homeschool my children, right? Let me make food from scratch. Let me grow, if I don't have land, let me grow an herb garden, whatever. They weren't doing that. They weren't like, oh, look, I have extra time to do more things for my family. No, it was extra time to do more things for me. Oh, this next one is really interesting. I don't believe in women's liberation. This is what they meant by that in 1971, according to Ms. Villar. I'm not such a fool. I'd rather let a man do the work for me. Aha! She was for women's liberation, this Miss Esther. So I'm not such a fool. I'd rather let a man do the work for me. Yeah, because they were. It was soft life. But I know in this day and age, men are like, you know what? I would take a 1950s housewife. It sounds great. You know why it sounds great? Because what we have right now is so bad. It's so far off what it should be, right? So you look at 1950s housewife where it was soft life, but in our imaginations and our romanticized visions, she was sweet, she was feminine, she kept herself up. She maybe cooked some meals, right? She was sweet to the children. She was lovely to the husband. A lot of you guys would be like, I will take that. And a lot of women in this day and age pretend that that's what they want in order to get you. It's a tactic they use. They do. And they're like, I always wanted to be traditional. I always wanted to stay home with the kids and cook and clean. Don't look back at my history of everything I've actually done and said and still do now, right? If she swears like a sailor, but tells you, hey, I always wanted to be June Cleaver, you better look further into that. That's painting a fantasy for you. So you need to look at what she does, not what she says. Oh boy. Here we go. After all, we are living in an age of equality. Yeah, she might say that nowadays. Here's what she meant in 1971. If he thinks he can order me about just because he earns money for me, he is sorely mistaken. Oh, that is current stuff. Absolutely. Let's read that again. So when she says, after all, we are living in an age of equality, she is saying, if he thinks he can order me about just because he earns money for me, he is sorely mistaken. Absolutely. She wants to call the shots. It's just women want to compete with men. That is, you just open your eyeballs and it's obvious that's the truth. And it doesn't work. Men don't want to compete with women. Men don't want to do that. They want to cooperate. They want her to cooperate, right? But that's not what we're told. We're told you want to chain us in the kitchen. And I keep saying, if the men wanted to chain us in the kitchen, we'd be chained in the kitchen. They're bigger and stronger than we are. They can impose their will. They don't do that, and they've never done that in Christendom. It's never been a forced thing. So, and even when, well, let's say around 1920, when that certain legislation came about, there were a lot of anti-slavery suffragettes, anti-suffragists. More of those. And they don't teach that in school, do they? No, they don't. They don't want women to think that, wait a second, we didn't want that? We really, most of us didn't want that. Weird. Because they don't want us to think that maybe we shouldn't want that. Maybe we should want something different for our lives that is truer to why we were created in the first place. Okay, next one. I'm so bad at doing things like that. Oh yeah, we kind of talked about this one already. I don't know which show it was, but they're starting to run together now, but that is definitely one. Like, I'm so bad at doing things like that. That's to get him to do those things. But let's see what Ms. Vilar thinks it is. That's a job he will have to do. What's he there for anyway? Oh boy. It's true. You know, the good old honey-do list. You know, when are you going to fix the garage? That kind of stuff. But what she'll also do, because remember we learned earlier that scolding isn't as effective, but they will get frustrated and begin to scold you. There's only so much patience that females have. There's not a lot, especially nowadays, because they're not taught it. You have to teach this to girls before they're 5 years old. You have to teach them patience. You have to. It is not going to be natural. It is not going to just come out of us. It is not our nature. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. He knows absolutely everything. This is what she means by that. He even serves the function of an encyclopedia. I don't think they would say that nowadays. But that would be, I would certainly question it nowadays if a woman said something like that. That sounds like a bit of love bombing. It really does. I don't like painting all women with the same brush. But I fall back on, it's not that every woman will, it's that every woman can. And you just don't know which ones are which. You know what I mean? You don't know. You don't know if it's love bombing. There's so much of that love bombing to get what they want that if a woman actually said, he knows absolutely everything, how can you not be suspicious? Men are smart and they do cost-benefit ratio and they do risk assessment very well. This is something that a lot of women don't understand, that men do risk assessment with everything. And so they look around and they see all the damage and destruction that we can do. And they go, yeah, I'm going to err on the side of not trusting it. And that's why I put hashtag dating advice for men. Because if there's guys just out there, you know, in the world thinking, I'm going to date, I'm going to find a good one, I want to warn them. So if they still want to find the needle in the needle stack, as Better Bachelor calls it, they have more information and they know the risks they're taking. And they know if they're looking for the needle in the needle stack, they're going to get scratched up. It's just the nature of the beast. The beast, indeed, right? Right, Rojas? Okay, next one. If a couple really love each other, there is no need to get married at once. I don't think they say that now. I don't know. Let's see what they mean by that. He is being a bit obstinate, but I'll soon get him around in bed. What? What? Was it the case back in 1971 that the men were like holding out? That the women were like trying to get him? A lot of times. This is a very interesting dynamic because I think women think that I know women think this a lot of times. Women think that if they can seduce the man, they really think it's like tough to do that. But they do. They think they have to seduce him. And if they get him, then he's theirs. Wow. All right. This one's a good one. The last one. I love him. It means he is an excellent workhorse. Yeah. I think it's the same. That hasn't changed. Hasn't changed. And I'm not sure when it started. I've been really thinking hard about when this started. The manipulation, the looking at the man like he's a workhorse. And it's not that you didn't understand that that the man has duties and responsibilities. That's fine. But the woman has duties and responsibilities too. And that's where we're off balance, way off balance today, right? Off balance here. I don't think that Ms. Vilar had the right solutions because of the idea of egalitarianism and that women should be, she wants them to all be scientists and build rockets and stuff. And again, who's raising the children? And also, that's not what men want. So it's a little bit of a miss there, but that's okay because we can chew the meat and spit out the bones. And when you're digging in literary archaeology, it's not all, treasure you find. Sometimes you find just some dirt. Okay. I laughed at my own joke again. I'm sorry. This is the conclusion to this dictionary chapter. Of course, women use stock phrases like these only when there is a man around to hear them. A tree falls in the woods. In the company of other women, they talk about their men quite normally, as they would speak of a domestic appliance, which everyone knows to be practical anyway. And I have literally heard women throughout my life talking about you have to train your man. I've heard them say he's not fully trained yet. Like it's funny, but they're not. They're serious about it. They really are. But they think it's harmless. And that's how little they think of you. Honestly, if you can think something like that is harmless, oh, he's not fully trained yet. I'm still training him. I've heard these phrases from women in casual settings. So funny. These are people. Men are people. What are you saying? Do you want somebody to say that about your son, your brother, your father, any man that you care about? It's wrong. It's just wrong to look at men like that. If there are any ladies watching, I don't hate women at all. I think we're off track. And I also love men, right? And the way we treat them, the way we speak to them, how we devalue them, how we dehumanize them, it is so wrong. And it doesn't elevate us. That's the problem. A lot of people will tear down someone else to elevate themselves. And I see that in this dynamic. And it just sinks everybody. If a woman says, I've decided to give up wearing this coat or that hat because my boyfriend doesn't like it, she really means I might as well do him that favor. He's doing everything I want anyhow. Yeah, it's throwing you a bone. It's just throwing you a bone. And in this day and age, I don't think, they barely, if a guy were to tell a girl or a man would tell a woman, it's not my favorite jacket or whatever, she'd probably break up with him and call him controlling and abusive. If a husband said that to a wife, oh, that would be called abuse. Wow. how far we've fallen out of the Garden of Eden. Wow. When women are among themselves discussing the desirable qualities of a specific man, they will never declare that they want someone to look up to, someone who will protect them. It's true. I keep imagining like scenes from Sex and the City, right? Where they're all sitting around like at the diner or they're having a talk, they're talking about men. And I'm comparing that kind of idea because that was pretty realistic. And so how different is it? Though I never hung out with chicks like that because gross. Anyway, such twaddle would be greeted with the laughter it deserves. They are more likely to say they want a man with such and such a job. Jobs are synonymous with income level. Old age pensions. We don't do pensions anymore, do we? Widows, endowments, and the ability to pay high life insurance premiums and live a luxury life and soft life. Or a woman might well say, the man I'm going to marry must be a little older than I, at least half a head taller. Right. Nowadays, they want him the same age, but over 6 feet, right? This was half a head taller. No, she's like 5 feet tall. She wants him over 6 feet. Ridiculous. Anyways, so she would say, I want to marry a man a little older than I, at least half a head taller, and more intelligent. I think women think they're so smart. That would be impossible. By which she means that it looks normal for a somewhat older, stronger, more intelligent human being to provide for a younger, weaker, more stupid creature. You know, that would be something interesting to say if I ever was on the whatever podcast. To say, oh, are you saying that you're weaker and a little dingier? But I wouldn't do that. I would rather implore them to contribute equally and in a way that he wants, because you want him to contribute how you want. You should reciprocate. That's just like common sense, right? But these translations are so interesting to compare to nowadays because women are still doing the same thing. There's womenese, right? It's their language. They say one thing, they mean something quite different. And men don't know the code. Because like Ms. Vilar said, you take it literally. And she's sugar and spice and all things nice. She wouldn't be manipulating you. You can tell she loves you. You can tell it's real. No, you can't. You can't tell. We are very good actresses. Now, there may be some where it is real to the best of her capability. And we've talked about the capability on other shows. But you won't know which ones. You'll think you can tell. You'll think, no, I found a good one. You can't know. If you want to go forward with it, at least know the risks, right? And for goodness sakes, be careful of those government contracts of the matrimonial persuasion, because that signs over your finances and your children to the state and her if you should become suddenly undesirable or not fulfill every whatever. And it probably would have nothing to do with you. I don't like being the bearer of bad news if this is new information for you. But I would rather be the messenger of bad news than just have more men be destroyed in family court and just for them have their hearts absolutely broken. Because if there are any women watching, and there are some that do, men have hearts and they love deeply and they love forever. Don't play with that. Don't play with it. Take it seriously. Respect it. Value it. You guys need to protect your peace. Feed your souls. I love you guys. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.